Welcome. My name is Robin Sears, and thank you for joining us live at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra for the launch of the Napier Waller Art Prize. It is unfortunate that we can't gather together in person this evening to celebrate the outstanding contributions of all the commended artists. To enable you to meet virtually, we have provided a chat window to the right of this video screen. Please use it to type your comments and perhaps your congratulations. The chat is being moderated. We welcome you from within the Napier Waller Art Prize exhibition itself. We will hear live from the Director of the Australian War Memorial and Art Prize Judge, Mr. Matt Anderson, along with former official war artist and judge, ex De Medici. The announcement of the Napier Waller Art Prize winner for 2020 will be made live by the Chairman of the Memorials Council, Mr. Kerry Stokes. Whilst the highly commended artists are not physically here, thank you all for sending in your photographs, which will be shown as part of tonight's proceedings. We will also hear messages from our supporters who make this prize possible: the Department of Veterans Affairs, Tallis, the University of Canberra, and the Road Home. Tonight's event will finish with a virtual tour of the 2020 Napier Waller Art Prize exhibition, giving you a close-up look at each artwork on display. I now invite Mr. Matt Anderson, Director of the Australian War Memorial, to officially open the exhibition.
Good evening. I'm honoured to welcome you to the 2020 Napier Waller Art Prize, both the announcement of the winner and the exhibition opening. We live in challenging times, and I hope that you're all staying connected with your loved ones, your friends, your families, wherever they are. I'd like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, the traditional owners of the land on which the memorial stands. Tonight, we meet virtually, which of course is not how any of us imagined the evening would play out. But I'm pleased that we still get to do this with some clever technology to gather online and to acknowledge the courage and the talent of all of those who have submitted entries into this year's prize. Now in its third year, the prize continues to go from strength to strength. We received a record number of 140 entries. Of these, just 17 works were highly commended, and they appear and are featured on the walls here at the Australian War Memorial in this special exhibition gallery. A further 14 works were commended and finalists, and so they appear on our website. And what we would encourage you to do is to visit our website and place a vote for the people's choice. The Napier Waller Art Prize does not have a theme, so entrants can explore ideas or experience that is important to them. In the words of Napier Waller himself, an artist draws with his head, not his hands. This was evident in the diverse range of works submitted and in the range of media used. Indeed, this year's entries tell diverse stories related to service and everyday life, from recent experience, hotel quarantine, to the beauty of natural world, for love of family, recover from trauma, and of course the honour that it is to serve. As you'll see in the exhibition here at the memorial and online, the artworks reflect the qualities that we admire in our service personnel and our veterans, qualities of creativity, humour, resilience and skill. The Napier Waller Art Prize brings the stories and the voices of veterans and service personnel into the heart of the Australian War Memorial. We are proud of your service, and we are proud to share your stories and to share your art. For artists, making art is a way to process experience and to challenge themselves, and hopefully to enjoy themselves along the way. For audiences, viewing art is about the experiences and the stories of others, to put yourselves into the eyes of those who have created the works of art. I've enjoyed being part of the judging panel and the process of discovering new works and their meanings as conveyed by the artists. And indeed, reading the backstories of how the works were created has been just as powerful to me, and I guess that's the point. Every piece of art in this gallery has a story, has a meaning. For those artists that were not selected as finalists or selected as highly commended, I thank you for the courage that it took to enter. Making art and offering your work for others like me to judge is not easy. Again, I thank you for the courage that you showed to submit your works of art, and I can only encourage you to resubmit in subsequent years because you have a story to tell and remarkable work to show. I'd like to thank Tallis Australia, the University of Canberra, the Road Home and the Department of Veterans Affairs for your sponsorship and your support for the Napier Waller Art Prize. Your commitment to the Australian War Memorial, where we honour, where we learn and where we heal, is appreciated greatly. I'm now pleased to declare the Napier Waller Arts Prize exhibition officially open, and members of the public are able to come to the Australian War Memorial and view this exhibition from tomorrow. Although travel isn't possible for many of us at this time, I'm hopeful that at least some of you will be able to come here and visit over the next 2 months to see the works in person, because I know that if you do, you'll be as moved as I am by the quality and the honesty on display here at the Australian War Memorial. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. As mentioned, the Napier Waller Art Prize is made possible through the continued support of our event partners. We will now hear from the Minister for Veterans Affairs and Minister for Defence Personnel, the Honourable Darrin Chester.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Darrin Chester, Minister for Veterans Affairs, and can I begin tonight by firstly recognising all those veterans who join us and say a simple thank you for your service. I'm sorry we can't be together because normally we'd have the chance to meet our artists and understand a little bit more about what's inspired their work and gain some insight into their own stories. Sharing insights through art is something that Australians have done for a very long time through war artists and through Mervyn Napier Waller himself. A person who understood resilience and adversity perhaps more than any other. He lost his right arm during World War I, it was amputated, and he went on to teach himself to paint with his left arm. So tonight is a celebration. It's a celebration of our veteran artists. I want to congratulate all the artists who've been shortlisted, but also congratulate the Australian War Memorial and the Department of Veterans Affairs for working in partnership to provide this opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about our veteran artists. Finally, can I say to the veterans who are with us this evening, please look after each other. Please stay in touch with your mates in these difficult times. We need to keep working together as we work through what has been a very challenging time in our nation's history. But again, congratulations on your work and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Minister Chester. Now we'll continue to hear messages from our other event partners. The Vice President Strategy at Tallis Australia, Mr. Gary Dawson. Vice Chancellor and President of the University of Canberra, Professor Paddy Nixon, followed by the Chief Executive Officer of the Road Home, Mr. Paul Flynn.
We're proud to have been a supporter of the Napier Waller Art Prize since its inception, and the way the War Memorial has created and developed this award to put a real focus on the therapeutic power of art is tremendous to see. Every year the number of entries and the quality of the works gets better and better, and that's testament to the relevance of this award. So congratulations to all the entries, to the finalists and of course to the winners. Your service and your stories are an inspiration, and it's a great privilege to be able to play a small part in bringing those stories to a broader audience. Thank you.
What's become increasingly obvious is that the trauma suffered by Defence Forces personnel can be mitigated by the pursuit of art, and that has stimulated one of our colleagues, Ian Drayton, back in 2015 to engage in workshops to help the Defence Forces, to encourage them to take up art, to help them develop and improve their well-being, to help them manage intrusive thoughts, and to help them manage the overall response to being back in the community. And that in turn has stimulated the collaboration that we have with the Australian Defence Forces and with the Australian War Memorial to develop the Napier Waller Art Prize. I think one of the benefits of the university being involved in this particular prize is that it can bring together our expertise in health and well-being through a faculty of health and our expertise in creative arts and industry, and allow those two to collaborate to support returning soldiers and servicemen and women as they come back to Australia and have to face into dealing with those post-traumatic stress moments. I, as Vice-Chancellor of the University, and the University itself, is very proud of our engagement with the Australian War Memorial on the Napier Waller Prize, and we look forward to working with you and collaborating on this into the future.
Hello, I'm Paul Flynn. I'm the Chief Executive of the Hospital Research Foundation Group. We are very pleased to be able to sponsor the Napier Waller Art Prize, as I was quite honoured to be selected as a judge this year. In our group, The Road Home provides services and support to veterans and first responders who are suffering as a result of their service. Involved in this process is art therapy. Our interest in the provision of services in the area of art to veterans led to our involvement in the Napier Waller Art Prize. I want to thank everyone who participated this year. It was a very difficult decision, but we know this art prize makes such a big impact in the veterans community. Thank you.
Thank you again to our prize supporters. I would now like to invite former official war artist X De Medici to provide the address. X De Medici is a Napier Waller Art Prize judge and is the mentor for our winning artist again this year. Welcome, X.
Thank you. I'd like to pay my respect to the traditional owners of this land. Respect also to all who submitted their work to this prize, selected or not. And congratulations to the finalists. The message to the artists. Artists, ours is a risky path in life. We play the long game. We have seen long-held buffhead Aussie beliefs about art and artists rise during this pandemic. Hostility is often more than not hiding in plain sight. Nonetheless, some relentless internal driver impels us to make, synthesise and extrapolate. We each add our own thread to the great and magnificent ongoing tapestry begun by our artist ancestors. I'd like to make a small mention here to the art collection in this building. The art collection of the Australian War Memorial is unique. It collects one thing, the experience of war. This collection speaks of a perpetual problem we as a species cannot resolve. As a child, I was and continue to be deeply affected by the Palestine paintings of Ivor Heal. It's as if he painted them with the very dust of that contested earth. Looking at them made my mouth dry and gritty. I would cry as I stood in front of the brave, frightened, taxidermed animals subjected to the incoherent fury of the human war machine. I would gaze up to the giant soldier with the bronze net now living outside, who once stood in the magnificent Hall of Memory, who looked just like my grandfather when he was a young man. It is fitting that former and serving soldiers give their experience of the phenomenon of war through their art with this dedicated prize. They know every corner of this all-encompassing disaster, Every war through all of time imprints, redefines the self, the family, multiple communities, land, economies, all extant generations, and for good and bad, future generational memory. The artists who have submitted to this prize have undergone a lifetime trajectory through their service. Inextricably woven into their work are the threads of the extremes they have witnessed and participated in, wrestled with, and live with for the duration of their lives. This is not therapy. These artists show us our folly, their vulnerability, their trust in the comradeship of their brothers, sisters, and animal others who save their lives. They impart their warnings to us. They generously allow us to see them and to remind us why we should ask questions of those in power who make decisions in our name. Thank you and good luck in your future.
Thank you, X. Your commitment and contribution to the Art Prize, together with your mentoring of the artists, is greatly appreciated, and I know the time spent with you will be invaluable. Now, the exciting moment. The Chairman of the Council of the Australian War Memorial, Mr. Kerry Stokes, will now join us remotely to formally announce the winner of the Napier Waller Art Prize for 2020.
Well, I'm very pleased to be able to announce the winner of the competition today. And it's a very deserving winner, although the competition was extremely tight. The quality of the entries continues each year to improve, and the judges praised all of the entries that came, in particular those that they gave commentations to. But the winner of this year's Napier Waller Award goes to Matt Jones for his work, Yarn. I'll leave him to talk about his work for himself because I think nobody else can describe the emotions that he has. But reading and looking at the work, I found it very stimulating. In this day and age where we are closeted away as individuals and having trouble going out and embracing the world, the thought of having something that represents the opportunity to say, let's talk, is a valuable metaphor for the circumstances, not just of a veteran, for whom Matt in particular has his experience, but for the general population today. We're going through a unique period where it is important for people to be able to say, I need to talk to somebody. I have a problem. I'm feeling poor. I'm not up to it today. And to have some way of showing that rather than having to say it. And that's what Matt's work achieves. Now, if we all had a small copy of it, we could carry with us and put it up whenever we wanted to talk with people. It'd be a wonderful opportunity to embrace others. But congratulations, Matt, a very worthy winner, and I'm very pleased to announce you as the winner for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And now it is my pleasure to invite Matt Jones, winner of the Napier Waller Art Prize for 2020, to respond.
Okay, so Mr. Stokes, thanks so much for those kind words, and it's a real honour, and I'm humbled to be the winner for this year's Napier Waller Art Prize. First, I'd like to pay tribute to all the other artists in the exhibition. It's a real honour to be in such an esteemed company, and of course, I would have liked to have been there with everyone myself today to share the work. Art can be a therapeutic and healing influence, and we should celebrate that through the stories that all of our works tell. Looking at all the works, looking at the stories, I think there's some real commonalities there. So, I've been able to engage with some unlikely conversations through this work, a conversation I didn't think I would explore, and a couple of mates came to the fore. Andrew Stagg, in particular, as a great person to bounce ideas off, and I think that's really what I'm expressing through the work and the statement. The work itself is made up of a number of loose threads. None of them are knotted, all woven together, And that's really how we engage with each other too. We're sort of individuals, but we come together in community. Mr. Stokes said something very interesting just before we came on this call tonight. It was about prioritising human contact. And I think that this work really is about highlighting, you know, the needs that we really have, our human needs to talk and to share, to sort of step outside of our vulnerabilities. I can tell you for me, since leaving the army, it hasn't always been an easy journey, far from it. And I just hope that you can see some of the rawness that comes out in this work that expresses my sentiment. It's about our social fabric, especially at this time, a time to listen, to encourage and to yarn together. So again, I just want to say to all the artists, it's such a privilege to be in this exhibition with you. Thanks for the great honour to be selected as the winner this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt, and congratulations again. We'll now take a few moments to recognise each of this year's highly commended artists. Mr. Michael Armstrong, Observers of Being. Miss Katrina Black, Tenacity, 2020. Mr. Ron Bradfield, In Plain Sight. Mr. Glen Braithwaite, Isolation. Miss Kel Clark, Resilience. Mr. Robert Cooper, Sore Fingers, Cold Hands. Mr. Darrin Free, Adapt, Improvise, Overcome. Mr. Aaron Gray, Australian Phoenix Rising. Mr. Daniel Hodgkinson, Bear. Mr. Martin Hurley, I Quarantine, Day 11 of 14. Mr. Ken McGuire, The Address. Mr. Rick Meehan, Digger's Lament. Mr. Darrin Radford, Memories of ASLAN. Miss Kathryn Rae, Coming Home. Mr. Gary Ramage, Afghan Diggers' Ghosts at the AWM. Mrs. Karen Shum, My Eyes Are Your Eyes. Each of you has received a certificate and medallion in recognition of your achievement. And once again, congratulations to you all. Now, please enjoy our virtual tour of this year's exhibition of the highly commended artworks.
Daniel Hodgkinson's Bear is a very raw and powerful painting. It shows the vulnerability that many people feel when they're adapting from military life to civvy street. He's really identified with other artists, Australian artists, particularly from the First World War, in his use of his palette and the First World War motifs, such as the helmet and the rifle. Aaron Gray's Australian Phoenix Rising depicts a yellow-tailed black cockatoo about to land. The photograph was taken near the Shoalhaven Heads area in New South Wales. The photographer has suffered many injuries and illnesses as a result of his time in the Defence Force. When he saw this cockatoo about to land, ideas of the phoenix rising from the ashes came to mind, and how that was a poignant metaphor for his own struggles.
This work we have here is by Rick Meehan and it's called Digger's Lament. He painted this in 2020, this year. It addresses his post-traumatic stress disorder that he suffered after his service with the ADF. The work is actually very reminiscent of The Man in the Mud diorama, which used to be on display in our First World War galleries by Peter Corlett. The end quote that I would like to end with for this work is he states, "Art has saved me yet again." Ron Bradfield, a Bardi man, created this work in 2020, In Plain Sight. He created it to make a statement about camouflaging identity. While serving, he wore the Navy uniform and no one saw the Aboriginal man inside. When he retired from the ADF, he felt he became a target again and that people saw the Aborigine and not the man. He then became a youth worker helping kids at risk and said, "In order to make myself appear less of a threat to the people I work with, I reached back into my wardrobe and found my pirate rig shirts. Overnight, I had found my new camouflage, and these shirts have kept me safely hidden in plain sight ever since."
This is a painting by Kel Clark and it's called Resilience, and you can see it's a very detailed, carefully made painting about her experience of injuring her right arm, but having to show a lot of resilience and determination in order to keep working despite the injury that she had.
This is a photographic image taken by a photographic artist, Ramage. It depicts the ghosts outside the Australian War Memorial and evokes Will Longstaff's Ghost of the Mechan Gate, which was painted in 1927. And I'm very pleased to see that it's got all the way through to the final exhibition.
This artwork is by Katrina and it's called Tenacity 2020. And you can see in this work that she's drawn all of the floral emblems from the states and territories in Australia, as well as the New Zealand fern. And then she's united those two countries by these beautifully drawn red poppies. And the poppies symbolise the relationship between Australia and New Zealand. And they're also a symbol of resilience and tenacity.
Darrin Free's work, Adapt, Improvise and Overcome, was brought about by his training in Kapuka in 1989, and that's where he learnt about these three states. Title of the work, Adapt, Improvise and Overcome. 4 years later, Darrin was deployed to Somalia, and this is where the idea of these works came from. So when we look at it, red on the first one, on Adapt, symbolises the blood that covered him. Black in Improvise represents the depression that he went through. And finally, Overcome. This is where he saw his life change, journey from soldier to artist.
Martin Hurley's I Quarantine, Day 11 of 14, speaks to the idea of loneliness and isolation. Here he's depicted in his hotel in Melbourne, after travelling back from Thailand earlier this year. With the current COVID-19 pandemic that the world's facing, this is a theme and a situation that many of us around the world can currently relate to.
This artwork is by Matt Jones and it's called Yarn, and it's an artwork that's about communication. The yellow and the blue is the maritime flag kilo, which means I want to communicate with you, but the artist feels like sometimes he finds it hard to communicate with other people and he doesn't want to communicate. So this is an artwork that's about wanting to reach out and communicate, but sometimes finding that difficult as well.
Robert Cooper joined the Australian Army aged 49. He deployed a couple of years later to Afghanistan, and this painting depicts one of the more memorable experiences. An Afghan man approached the ASLAN in the Overwatch position, and it was at this point that Trooper Cooper, as he's known, started to communicate with the Afghan man through an interpreter. He talked of cultivating the field and with his sore, cold hands. It was at this point that he rummaged around in his bag and produced a brand new pair of gloves for the Afghan man. Trooper Cooper said that this was a poignant moment for him. He felt good and he felt that he had crossed the cultural gap.
This artwork is by Karen Shum and it's called My Eyes Are Your Eyes, and it's a tribute to war dogs. She's painted Sabi, who was an Australian service dog who got lost in Afghanistan and then was found more than a year later. And she's paid particular tribute to the relationship that the war dogs have with their handlers.
Kathryn Rae's Coming Home 2020 addresses the difficulties that soldiers face when coming home from deployment, going back into civilian life. What Rae has chosen to use is maps. The maps represent Mount Majura and also Mount Ainslie. It's a reflection of battlefield and planning of operations. She's also used her late husband's Andrew's stencils, which have negative and positive images. The 4 maps represent journeys: her life, her late husband's life, their 5-year-old daughter Imogen's life, and she wanted the last stencil to represent your life.
Here we have a painting by Michael Armstrong, Observe as a Being. What I believe the artist is trying to rediscover is the love for the human form. Being an army officer, close combat officer, he'd looked at the body very different when he served. You know, what I see in her, she looks like she's hiding from something, but she's not fearful of it.
This artwork is by Glen Braithwaite and it's called Isolation, and he created it on Anzac Day this year in social isolation. So he talks in his artist statement about his mood on Anzac Day, feeling stoic and quiet, and he made this image to reflect that mood. But one of the reasons we really liked it in art section was because it's quite a kind of sombre, even an earnest image, but he actually made it with his daughter who had a hose to create this effect of rain, and he speaks about how that was a very fun and playful moment that brought the day back to family.
Ken McGuire's work, The Address, brings to light the work of Major General Kathryn Rae, Head of Land Capability, Australian Army Headquarters, as she addresses the Royal United Service Institute of New South Wales. This work has different artistic styles, which makes the viewer actually focus on Tui herself. McGuire, who is in his 80s, really shows you can create art at any age. He states, "The painting is an attempt to thank Major General Tui for her work, and especially for her making time to attend and eloquently present information that might otherwise have not been made available."
So this artwork is by Darrin Radford and it's called Memories of ASLAN, and it's him reflecting on his memories of Operation ASLAN, which was a peacekeeping mission in South Sudan. So it's in 2 parts. The video at the top shows them travelling off the base to do their work every day and then coming back at the end of the day. And then the photograph down the bottom is a medal parade of the contingent at the end of the operation.
I hope you enjoyed the virtual tour. The highly commended exhibition of works opens to the public tomorrow through until Sunday, the 22nd of November this year. Should you wish to visit the memorial in person, please note that currently ticket bookings are required. Please visit awm.gov.au for information on booking your free ticket. An online exhibition of the 31 highly commended and finalist artworks is on display on our website. We also encourage you all to vote online for your favourite work in the People's Choice Award, the winner of which will receive $5,000. Voting for the People's Choice Award closes on Sunday, the 22nd of November. Well, our event has now come to an end. Thank you all for joining us for the announcement of the 2020 Napier Waller Art Prize winner and the official opening of the exhibition. Stay safe and well, and good night from the Australian War Memorial.